एकम् अक्षरम् हृदि निरन्तरम् भासते स्वयं लिख्यते कथम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् अहमहमिति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मज्जता आनचलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्। देहं मृण्मयवत् जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तद्भावशक्तिसमये शुद्धात्मसद्धातः ओहं भावयुतः कुतो वरधिया दृष्टात्मनिष्ठात्मना सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयम्। सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयम्। In this the Thursday Satsangh from Ramanacentre Center for Learning, as is usual, we'll be reading from the work Guruvachika Kovai by Muruganar Swamigal. We'll be reading 2 verses. Each verse reading will be followed by a short meditation on its meaning, and that will be followed by a 10-minute practice of Atmavicharam. After these 2 segments of verse reading, meditation on the meaning, and the practice sessions are completed, there will be summing up remarks by our president, Dr. Shardaka, and that will be followed by an offering of Sri Ramana Ashtotram. The verbal chanting will be by Pratnama and by Bhauji, and the floral offering will be from here by Shri Manjunathji. We begin this evening's satsang by taking the first verse selected for us, verse number 468. we find this verse 468 occurring in the first segment, the investigation into truth. This segment is followed by meditation on the truth, and the final segment in the book is Anubhava or experience of the truth. Verse 468 happens in investigation into truth, and the subsegment is disentanglement from kartavya. Disentanglement from kartavya. The kartavya can be duty or doership. Disentanglement, of course, is to free oneself. Verse 468. When Draupadi, the chaste woman, gave up her hold on her sari and raised her palms together over her head, praying, Krishna, you alone are my refuge now. Through the sweet grace of Lord Krishna, the enchanter upon this good earth, the sari protecting her honor grew endlessly, and the strong and wicked Dushasana fell down exhausted as if paralyzed. When Draupadi, the chaste woman, gave up her hold on her sari and raised her palms together over her head, praying, Krishna, you alone are my refuge now. Through the sweet grace of Lord Krishna, the enchanter upon this good earth, the sari protecting her honor grew endlessly, and the strong and wicked Dushasana fell down exhausted as if paralyzed. There is a note by the authors, and there is a note from Muruganar Swamigal, and there is a small remark from Talks. We go through the notes. In the Mahabharata, Draupadi was the joint wife of the 5 Pandava brothers, one of whom wagered her in a gambling game and lost. Dushasana, the brother of the winner of the game, claimed her as his prize and attempted to strip her publicly by pulling her sari off. When none of her husbands came to her aid, and when she was unable to resist Dushasana by herself, she gave up her hold on her sari and prayed to Krishna for assistance. Krishna responded by making her sari endlessly long. Dushasana attempted to unwrap it, but no matter how much cloth he took from her, there was always enough left to keep her body covered. Dushasana eventually became exhausted and gave up. Muruganar. Through the power of her surrender, Draupadi's sari grew endlessly and her honor was protected. As long as she relied on her own strength, grace did not manifest. There is a talk. A gentleman from Ambala asked, what is the rationalistic explanation of Draupadi's sari becoming endless? What is the reason? What is the logic behind Draupadi's sari becoming endless? Bhagavan. Spiritual matters cannot be fitted into rationalism. Spirituality is transcendental. The miracle was after Draupadi had surrendered herself. The secret lies in surrender. When Draupadi, the chaste woman, gave up her hold on her sari and raised her palms together over her head, praying, Krishna, you alone are my refuge now. Through the sweet grace of Lord Krishna, the enchanter upon this good earth, the sari protecting her honor, grew endlessly, and the strong and wicked Dushasana fell down exhausted as if paralyzed. This happens to us in our day-to-day living. The offer from the unconditional is always present. The offer from the unconditional consciousness is always present. The unconditional love of God is always present. But so far as the ego wants to interfere. The ego wants to have a say. The ego wants to defend itself. The ego wants to fight and win. There we don't feel the unconditional love of God. We are left to our own doings. There is a story which I had come across, a legend, where a farmer, a devotee of Sri Vishnu, was supposed to have been beaten by his landlord mercilessly, and that makes Vishnu get up from his sayanam, where Sri Lakshmi is also there, and he runs towards the doors or gateway of Vaikunta, and Sri Lakshmi is asking, why, what is happening? My devotee is suffering, he says. Then having gone up to the gateways, he comes back, and Sri Lakshmi asks, why have you come back? Then Sri Vishnu is supposed to have said, no, my devotee has taken up the log of wood in his hand. So now it is said in logic and in reasoning that we can use a physical circumstance to have an analogy for the spiritual freedom. But if you try to apply the reverse, as the person was trying to do, to apply the spiritual freedom back into your fight with the neighbor, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work. That free unconditional presence is gone. But the analogy from here to there we can have. Like we were discussing just before the satsang, how one of my other friends was coming out of a knee injury, and because of 10 days of the rest with the braces, the ability to walk has been temporarily kept in abeyance. And the doctor, when we met yesterday, literally kicked the crutches. He kicked at the crutches and said, your crutches are making you weak. The crutches are making you dependent. You have forgotten how to walk. Keep the load on that leg and walk. You are all right now. So, when we were discussing, my friend and I, we could easily take that analogy across dimensions to spirituality, where the light of consciousness either consciously lets go of the crutches, the holds that it has, the safety measures it is having, and thus limiting itself, or by surrender to the unconditional love of God, lets go of the crutches once again. That's why Bhagavan says, either through Atma Vichara, let go of the crutches, or through unconditional surrender to God, let go of the crutches. You are free either way. Now, can that freedom be now brought back to the world and say, you can behave as freely as you want with your neighbor? No. In this area, the rules are there. The analogy from this area can be taken to that. There may be some indications from this area which point to the limitless. But that limitless freedom cannot be applied to the area of gross. In the area of gross, the rules have to be followed. If you want to defend yourself with your ego, you should give that right to others too, to defend their viewpoint. There is no way to say that you should follow me or I will follow you here. There is no force that can be used here. We are left to our designs by the unconditional. Now, getting back to the miracle of Draupadi, it is not that the miracles don't happen. In my own life, when the surrender to the unconditional in Atma Vicharam, or the conscious entry into the unconditional with Atma Vicharam, like Draupadi lifting up both the hands, that's what is done in self-enquiry. In self-enquiry, whenever a thought comes and the ego wants to hold that for safety, let it go. Don't hold that, put hands up. Let the ego do hands up. I will not take the support of that crutch of thought. Let it go. And hold the unconditional. What is there in who am I? There is no answer, says Sharadaka. Whenever I say, you won't get an answer, she says. So, where are we going? We are going to the unconditional love of God. We are in complete surrender to the Almighty, to the one alone who is there, and saying, Bhagavan, no, I am not going to hold the shame and cover it up. If you feel that it is worthy to cover up, you cover up. Otherwise, do whatever you please. I am not going to hold even a single thought. My hands are off, Bhagavan. That's what we do in Atma Vicharam. It is unconditional surrender. At the same time, since it is consciously done, Bhagavan agrees that it is Jnana Marga, that you are consciously letting go of the crutches and consciously entering into the unconditional Supreme who is ever waiting there. With all his love, he is waiting there. And by using our ego, we are denying that. We are denying that unconditional love in our life. When we do that, when we are doing the hands up, then all the relationships that are there, that were earlier having some conditionality. Only if they behave like this, they are my friend. Only if they behave like this, they are related to me spiritually. Only if they follow in this particular way, then alone they are following in the Satsangh. No. When one is doing the hands up like Draupadi, which we will be blessed if we can do, and do the Atma Vicharam or surrender to Bhagavan, the unconditional self, then one is related to everyone unconditionally. There is no one, no single being who is out of that relationship. Bhagavan gives sayujya with that unconditional love. One's very form becomes unconditional love. That's why Bhagavan says, when someone asks, is Guru's grace there for me? Is Guru feeling for me? Bhagavan says, what is this that you are asking? Whether Guru is feeling for me? Guru is nothing other than unconditional feeling and love. But you are asking for this, whether Guru's grace is there for me, can I let go? The idea is, can I let go? You are asking is like somebody standing neck deep in Ganges and saying that he is thirsty. Then Bhagavan revises that, no, that's also not true. You are not standing neck deep in Ganges. You are the fish in the Ganges, surrounded by grace all around, and still feeling you are thirsty. Then he says, no, that is also not a proper analogy. The problem with analogies in the world and taking it to the unconditional is this, that there are better analogies. The final analogy Bhagavan gives is that it is like Ganges saying, it is like water saying that it is thirsty. That natural guna of quenching the thirst is there in the water, and that water itself is saying, so our very Swarupa is unconditional love. Our very Swarupa is unconditional being. And we refuse to let go, like Draupadi, and we cling to the sari, and we suffer. And Bhagavan goes back from the gates of the Mukti Loka back to his Sayana and allows us to come from the world of bondage back into freedom. In our workshops, we used to do this exercise. I remember a skit beautifully presented by the Ramanacentre Center, the Kendra children. Probably they are not children then. The surrender, we used to have a skit where they will be standing one behind the other and trusting that the other will hold, they will have to let go and fall back. And very few of us in the workshop could do that. That's of course a physical analogy to the spiritual freedom. And that is what we do in Atma Vicharam. We try to emulate, follow Draupadi Amma, and get the blessing of the ever-present unconditional love of God by not holding on to any of those crutches. Not a single crutch of thought do I want to hold. Let the crutch arise. Hey, hold me. I will save you. Will save the thought. But we'll have to say, no. Bhagavan is waiting for me there. The unconditional love is waiting for me inside. I will let you go. For whom is this thought? This thought is for me. Who am I takes me to Sri Krishna, the very form of limitless love, the unconditional love for all beings. After all, what is creation except him in another form? How can he have anything other than unconditional love for all of us, irrespective of what stage we are in? Let us let go of these crutches and hold the unconditional self by asking, who am I? With Bhagavan's immense grace, let us use the analogies intelligently. Take the analogy from the physical and apply it to the spiritual. Experience the freedom and have that freedom in relationships. But understand that each one is having that unconditional love within, and in their own sweet time and in their own sweet way, in their own sweet steps, they will find the unconditional love. It is our duty to let go of our hands ourselves, to let go of the crutches and hold the unconditional love, Sri Krishna, Sri Ramana inside, by letting go of the thought and holding the self by asking, for whom is this thought? It is to me, Bhagavan, I want to know only one thing. Who am I? Soham Spurtitaya Arunachala Shivaha Purno Vibhati Swayam. The unconditional love that is Arunachala will rise and shine in answer as I, says Bhagavan. Without even expecting that, let us do what is suggested to the free consciousness by the Guru. Free yourself. Let go of the crutch of thought. Go in and like Draupadi Amma, feel the unconditional love that is waiting within. Be the unconditional love, the self. With Bhagavan's immense grace, let us sit in practice for 10 minutes of this unconditional surrender. This a conscious entry into the unconditional love of our Bhagavan. Raitima, you will help us in setting the time. Shri Ramana. Namo Ramana. We go on to the reading of the second verse, verse number 738, selected for us. We find this occurring in the segment meditation on the truth, and the subsegment is meditation and enquiry, dhyana and vichara. Meditation and enquiry, verse number 738. There is a note from the Who Am I book essay version. Verse 738. Meditation is only the mental imagination of conceiving oneself to be the supreme reality that shines as Sat Chit Ananda. Enquiry is to establish the mind in the self such that the seed of false delusion, the mind, perishes. We'll read the note from the Who Am I and then come back to the verse again. There is a question and answer also on this in the question and answer version of Who Am I as to what is the difference between meditation and vichara. Meditation is to assume oneself to be Rama, Krishna or Satchitananda or the Brahman and think about that alone, whereas vichara is to keep the mind in the Atman. Is more or less the answer in the question and answer. Let us see the essay version. Bhagavan, always keeping the mind fixed in the self alone is called self-enquiry. Manadai tannidathil iruthi kondirupadu, not allowing the I thought to escape out of the Atma. That is self-enquiry. Whereas meditation is thinking oneself to be Brahman. There in meditation, the ego is allowed to be outside of the Atman, but instead of the multiplicity of many things, consider itself to be the singular thought of Brahman or Satchitananda. Meditation is thinking oneself to be Brahman, which is Satchitananda. So we get back to the verse again. This topic is on meditation and inquiry. Meditation is only the mental imagination of conceiving oneself to be the supreme reality that shines as Sat Chit Ananda. Enquiry is to establish the mind in the self such that the seed of false delusion, the mind, perishes. So one is a sadhana which purifies the ego from its multiplicity. The ego in its ajnana considers the one to be so many. It considers this one to be split into so many sensory objects. So many objects in the sensory world to be achieved. There used to be discussions in the years 2003, 4 and all with one of my other friends. And he would say it is very easy to deal with goals of studying, knowing and getting to places, whereas it is very difficult to deal with people, that to deal with relationships, because in the other area the knowledge, the goal is fixed and the consciousness has to make some efforts to reach there, whereas the moment it has to deal with people, how they interpret what we say could be from infinite number of directions, and that complicates things a little bit. And he used to say that that is so much more difficult than now that multiplicity of objects and multiplicity of relationships and multiplicity of interpretations in a single relationship is all overcome by dhyana. which purifies the ego by making it all one. It is all Ramana. Ashtamurti Brud Deva Pujanam. Everything that you see, all the five elements, fire, air, water, all these five elements, and the Surya, Chandra, and the ego, all these which are mixed in various combinations to form the various worlds, all that is only Bhagavan, is only Ishvara, is only Ramana. When that is the case, that brings us to Japa, that whatever you see, whatever you hear, whatever you touch, whatever you taste, whatever you smell, is all Ramana only. But Bhagavan used to say, when someone would make some 15 different items for cooking and she would bring and serve it to Bhagavan, he will mix everything and have it. And to appease the questioner, to the person who has taken trouble to go into so much variety, he would say, it is all one taste for me. Yeah. One taste means not of the tongue, but of the Atma. The Atma alone being sensed. It is all Atma Swarupa. The different varieties of food, the different tastes are all rolled up into one. They are not different. Now that's where the dhyana purifies. All the different tastes which we have sought after, running here, there, all the different types of people and their interpretations we have tried to attend and solve. All that multiplicity is removed by Ramana. Simple people in India will tell, Devar aadstane sir, ella aadbeku. Now by that, the purity is brought for a moment. He will be undergoing hundreds of troubles. Apparently to the mind, so many things that he had planned for would have dropped. And such a simple person undergoing thousands of difficulties in India will have this knowledge that previous moment he might have expressed the difficulty, but then he will come to this. That is what dhyana does, the meditation does. It is an imagination that one is not this bound being, challenged by multiplicity of phenomena, multiplicity of interpretations, multiplicity of challenges, shame, emotions, etc. But one is actually the Bhagavan, the Swarupa, which is everything, which is Ramana, where the bombardment from many is not there, and there is purification of the ego by refusing the apparent and false differences and holding it all as one. Everything is Ramana means, can I be apart? So meditation, Bhagavan goes directly to the root. When everything, Ashtamurti Brud, all that is Ramana, you are actually meditating that you are yourself that Ramana, which is everything. So that is why Bhagavan is saying, meditation is imagining oneself to be that Ishvara Swarupa and removing all the differences that one apparently perceives and is in favor of or in conflict with. All that is removed and purified. But what does self-inquiry do? It takes this fellow who has jumped out of the ego, of the self, and imagines himself to be separate from the source. You go back in. That is the only thing that is done in self-inquiry. In who am I, irrespective of the challenge that has come, instead of trying to integrate the whole thing into one God and then being identified oneself with that, all that one has to do is remove this false jumping out of the perfectness. To imagine that you are separate from the unconditional love is the imagination that there is a world that is separate from the unconditional love. The moment the I subsides itself in the unconditional love, the unconditional consciousness, the eternal being, then nothing is outside the eternal being. Everything is the self. If you are Rama, then everything is Rama automatically, says Bhagavan. You be Rama, you be the self. Then you won't see anybody as other than the self. Only as an explanation we say, just as we wound our ways through various differences and reach the self, they will also reach, so let them. You don't go and interfere with them. That is only for explanation. But in actuality, they are not abstracted into beings who are moving towards the light. They are the light. Everyone is the light. There is no need to interfere with another because there is no another. In the Atma, when the I is in the self alone is. You are not out of courtesy letting the other go. You are not out of feeling that they are also moving in the same way, making some other errors, and they will come to the light. No such explanation is there. The moment in the enquiry you take the I, தான் எழுந்தால் எல்லாம் எழும், தான் அடங்கினால் எல்லாம் அடங்கிவிடும். If you are the Atma Swarupa, then there is no one to help or to interfere with. Everyone is the Atma Swarupa, not potentially the Atma Swarupa. They are. There is only the Atma Swarupa, and that alone is self-luminously shining as I. தன்னையலால் அந்நியம் ஒன்றும் அறியார். In self-inquiry, one does not see difference from the self even a bit. The self alone is. Till that is understood to be natural, the creation of differences is not there in the self. The self is undivided. It is eternal. It is ekam. It is aksharam. It is kriti nirantaram. It is bhasate swayam. How can it be divided and explained? It cannot be. One has to be the self. Take the I back to the source. That is all one has to do. Automatically the world is integrated. The various gods are all integrated. The individual is integrated. Everyone comes and merges into the self. The self is the world. The self is the Ishvara. The self is the individual. The self alone is Atma Swarupa, alone is Satyam. That is directly perceived in Atma-vicharam. With Bhagavan's immense grace, let us sit in this Brahmastram practice for 10 minutes. Revathi, you'll set the time for us. Namo Ramana. I request our President, Dr. Sharda to give us the final remarks. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as the self in all beings. Here, in these two verses, Bhagavan is telling us about two aspects. One, of course, clearly, directly, the difference between dhyana and self-inquiry, he has told us. And in the earlier verse, he is telling us about the glory of surrender. Muruganatha Swami, in Ramana Sharana Pallandu, he has one very beautiful verse where he says, Yattanayo sarbu matrenor kulavenum vittame jnana rulve katava maitha guna sadhu katku உன்னையல்லால் சார்பு வேறின்மை கண்டு சாதுக்களையாள் சரண். He says, people have so many supports, endless supports. So Nandakumarji said, every time a thought arises, we think it is going to support us. Support us in what? Support us in getting what we desire. We think that the thought will lead to the required action. Thought will help us have the necessary action. That action will bear the necessary fruit and we will enjoy happiness. For this purpose, we hold on to thought after thought as a support that will lead to happiness, as a support that will protect us. So he said, like Draupadi gave up all supports after she recognized, after she pleaded with every support. Life is a strange thing. We do not know when which support goes away from us and how it goes away from us. Many instances are there. But what happens? When the support goes away, then only we have to recognize, then only we recognize that Bhagavan is the support. Then we recognize. But Bhagavan says in Aksharamanamale, Sirai Adithu Nirvanamai Chedarul Sirai Aditharul. Time will anyhow rob me of all my supports. No thought, even a thought, doesn't stay with us permanently. Forget about something outside of us. Even a thought doesn't stay with us. It goes away. It moves away. So how to take it to be a support? So Bhagavan says, Arit, consciously, you take this away from me. You take away all supports and render me supportless. Nirvanamai Cheidu Arul Sirai Alittarul. When that state is attained, then the grace is the only support. The grace becomes the only support. There are so many instances. There is that instance actually when Nandakumarji was talking about the crutches. I recalled the miracle which Bhagavan had performed in his early years at Tiruvannamalai on Arunachala, which he reports as a story happened. Of course, not that he was there, but then devotees believe that it was none other than him. And that story is of a devotee, a poor devotee, a woodcutter, who lost the use of his legs, became crippled. He had to move around with crutches, and which meant that his profession could no longer be practiced by him. He could no longer carry on his work. And his family was absolutely, cruelly disregardful of him. In fact, probably told him that there is no use of his being. there on this earth anymore. And he decided to give up his life. When he decided to do so, but he held one thought of, that is the dhyana. He first went to the dhyana of doing giri valam, going round the hill once, using his crutches before dropping his body voluntarily. And when he was in the process of this valam, suddenly some man came there and snatched his crutches away from him. At that point, he was desperate. He said, please don't take away my crutches from me. It is such a strange thing, isn't it? Here is this man, he wants to give up his life, but still he did not want to lose his crutches. It is like that sometimes. We say we are ready to dive into the self, ready to experience the self, that we are longing to experience the self, but we are not ready to give up our crutches, which are the thoughts. And there, in that incident, that man, that stranger, having pulled the crutches away from him, saying, anyhow, of what use are they to you? And he pulls them away. And this man, the devotee, he is for a moment fallen on the ground, but he suddenly realizes that he can get up and he can walk, and he really does not need the crutches. That is Arul Sir. That is the real support and the only support, which Muruganar Swami says, Maitha Guna Sadhukatku Sarbu Verinmai Kandu Sadhukadayal. The true sadhus, the seekers, who do not have any support other than you, recognizing this, please protect such sadhus. So, when one gives up all the other supports, or the Lord takes them away out of His own compassion, sometimes, though it appears painful, it has happened in the lives of devotee after devotee. Rajkumar Bharati is one integral part of the Ramana Maharshi Center for Learning. He was one of the core singers. Extraordinarily blessed voice he had, apart from the fact that his musical knowledge was very, very deep. It continues to be so. But suddenly he lost his voice. It happened with Srimati Sulochana Natarajan, the leader of Ramananjali. Imagine, but for Rajkumar it was also his profession. He lost his voice. It was a very difficult moment in his life, not a moment, a few years of his life. But he has shared with me, he said, when that happened, because I had time, I was very, very busy until then. I had no time for anything. During this period only, when I lost my voice, I began to read spiritual literature and I began to read the teachings of Bhagavan Ramana. Who am I came to me, Bhagavan's life came to me. He translated the detailed book, detailed biography of Bhagavan, Timeless in Time by A.R. Natarajan, into Tamil. So he would tell me, Rajkumar would tell me, how can I say this was a bad phase in my life? How can I say? Because Bhagavan came to me in that phase. So Arul Sir is what Bhagavan gives. And then further than that, Bhagavan is telling that once that one shard, one support is held up, then what happens? That support automatically dissolves into the self. That support also has to be left behind. Swami Virajananda would give the example of a pole vaulter. He would say a pole vaulter runs to the wall to do his jump. He runs holding a pole. Now, there are 2 points there that one must remember, that he does not hold multiple poles. He does not keep on changing as he runs up to that pole to vault over that. He does not carry multiple poles. He does not keep changing his poles as he runs. He takes hold of one pole which he can rely on, and he goes right up to that. And when he has to jump over, Swami Virajananda would say, he has to leave that behind. He cannot say, it helped me so much, it has been the only support for me, let me take it across. It's not possible. That also is left behind, it is dropped, and he jumps across. So that final jump is the jump of self-inquiry. What Bhagavan allows us to do is that he allows us to drop each and every thought, each and every support, instead of dropping external supports either altogether, which is an impossibility perhaps for us, or to drop them one by one, which would be an infinitely long process. Bhagavan allows us to drop it within as it arises as thoughts, and finally to drop the I thought through the question, who am I? And to abide in that Arul Seer, in the fullness of grace. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya.
नमो रमना का
Namo Ramnas.
नमो रमना वैभव जी and प्रार्थना में we can start chanting of Ashtotram.
नमो रमण भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितं श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशे यस्योर्विमात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि। ॐ महासेन मोहंसेन जाताय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः। ॐ गुरवे नमः। ॐ अखण्डसंविदाकाराय नमः। ॐ महौजसे नमः। ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः। ॐ जगद्विदावताराय नमः। ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथसर्वस्थिताय नमः। ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः। ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः। ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः। ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः। ॐ कमोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः। ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः। ॐ श्रीमद्द्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः। ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः। ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः। ॐ तीव्राय नमः। ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः। ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः। ॐ पितृरादेशतः षोडशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः। ॐ तपोमयाय नमः। ॐ उदासीनाय नमः। ॐ महायोगिने नमः। ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः। ॐ कुशाग्रधिये नमः। ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः। ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः। ॐ सवित्रे नमः। ॐ स्थिराय नमः। ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः। ॐ कुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः। ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः। ॐ कमलवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः। ॐ चूडिताखिलविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः। ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः। ॐ त्रिगुणातीताय नमः। ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः। ॐ विराजतचराकृतये नमः। ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः। ॐ पूर्णाय नमः। ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः। ॐ गम्भीराय नमः। ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्य निभाय नमः। ॐ स्वराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराजे नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईड्याय नमः। ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आत्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ सममीर्षे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयाणवाय नमः। ॐ श्रीशोणाचलोद्बोधस्कन्धाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिवृन्देन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिन्नसंशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादगसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौलेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ ऋचान्तिकरसानिध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणाबन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्थिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसाराणवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणादृशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ रश्च्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रगौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगविषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्नेन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमणभगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामपूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थानूररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्याजनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाहविवश तादात्म्यभावं गतः ऋन्निष्ठस्वदवीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनासेकराट् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि दर्शन सुख मंगल मुख सकल जीवहित सम्मुख ब्रह्म संधिये सदा तुष्ट सदा हृष्ट सदा शिवानंद पुष्ट परम महर्षि ब्रह्मनिष्ठ समदर्शी नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावर्ण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि ನಮ್ಮ ಮನವದೊಂದು ಕಾಡು ನೀನರಿತಿಹೆ ಅದರ ಜಾಡು ಹಿತವನರಿತು ನೀಡುತ್ತೆಮ್ಮ ಕೊರೆಯ ಬೇಡಲೆಂದು ಬಂದ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿಯೇ ತಣಿವೆವಯ್ಯ ಮೋಡಿಗಾರನಿ ಹಿತವ ನುಡಿದು ಪೊರೆ ನಮ್ಮನು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಸಂಧಿಯೇ ನಮೋ 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 ರಮಣ ಸದಾಶಿವ ಪ್ರಭಾವರಣ ನಮೋ महर्षि नमो महर्षि नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि बोलो भगवान श्री राम जय